Alright, random video. Yay. Well, maybe. Yes, cigarette, thank you. Thank you. Anyway, okay, enough of that crap. And the subject of this video is going to be a lot about addiction, I think. As a statement, anyway, of, just one of these really important key features of the problem of, fucks with our head, and that's what life is. Life is, we're addicted to it. Once you're alive, you're conscious, you are compelled to maintain yourself, protect yourself. And there's no way not to be able to associate death with the ceasing of your addiction. It's like you can't get to the food anymore, you can't get to the water. It's hard to imagine it any other way, as being nothing but a deprivation of your need to have these things satiated. Sorry about the thump. Camera angle and whatnot. So much to consider. So Christopher7 made a video responding to a Sarah on comment, which is sort of interesting, just old school kind of YouTube. And it revolved around this idea of being able to say my life was not worth living. And we can't really say that. I mean, once you're alive, you're just stuck with this impression of the preciousness. You're just tied to the fact that you do find things attractive, you do find things beautiful, that they're compelling. Like the chemical nicotine is just, if somebody's take a cigarette and just cut it into little pieces with a scissor, it'd be like, oh, what a tragedy, it didn't get smoked. It's a pleasure device of some kind, and it just seems horrible. If I can't smoke it, or somebody didn't smoke it, it was just such a waste, a tragedy. And that's so much of our psychology. And so this relates to a Maximilian Robespierre guy who made a very short video just kind of asking the question, basically stating, okay, he gets the whole ephilism thing, that life is habitually, functionally stupid, in the sense that it is consumption, reproduction, addiction, and parasitism. And so, but the addiction word kind of covers the subject of what's the flaw in the philosophy, in that it can't do anything to make beautiful not beautiful. It can't do anything to make food not tasty. It can't do anything to take away our desire to smell a beautiful smell, or to see a beautiful sight, or to feel a comforting sensation. So our addiction, it doesn't have an answer to it. You can't provide a verbal answer that makes the agony and the ecstasy element, the idea of obtaining some kind of perfect moment, or the sense of its being out there to get, like the heroin, to find it, to uncover it under some rock. Our perception, our sense that it's out there to be grabbed by the pussy is is a powerful mechanism. And so I'm not saying it's a flaw in the philosophy, that it doesn't have, that you can't fix that with words. You can't just say something to a heroin addict to make heroin not important. And you can't say something to a life addict that just makes it not seem like it's something not worth wanting or desiring. And they just can't. You can sort of see it as a mind game, but you can't see it as a sensation. You can't sense the futility of your existence. You can only kind of understand the futility of your existence. And that's what makes all of this, it makes it difficult to explain the circumstance, to explain that the rose has thorns and that the rose will die. To have the whole context of the rose in the moment of the rose. But in the moment of the rose, it's going to be very hard to explain all that, to have that context mean anything. And it's this is the challenge of philosophy and even politics, is to make something in the future, a goal, understandable as valuable when it doesn't have any, when the immediate product is something not pleasant or not good, and that you have a good that will be the byproduct of action now that will not be pleasant. And it's difficult to make people appreciate that, to understand that the sum of the total of your life will not be what you're living at any one moment in your life. Your life is pretty much what's happening now. It's not the past or the future. And so unless you're having this conversation with somebody on fire, or whose skin is all burned off, or they got flesh-eating disease, it's a more complex and difficult argument to make. And certainly we'd never obtain complete context in that we have conversations about how worthwhile it is to live, and we haven't died yet, and we haven't watched what happens after we die. We don't have any of this full context. Carrie Fisher might have been somewhat depressed about her death on the airplane, if she saw it and had to, could see the experience of it in context, could see the grief of her mother, and then watch her mother die would make it even more contextually difficult. You could imagine that would not be something she might wish on somebody. Oh yeah, let's do that again. That was a fun ride. That kind of thing. Context helps, but it still doesn't undo the fact that we are compulsive. Animals. No, stop it. It's somebody else's house. Sorry. It's just distracting when you have things chewing on your house. Anyway, it's just try to eke out a living also, moment to moment. It's just brutal out there in the real world. So, so addiction is the hardest thing to, it's like, say, the optimism bias you could put in that same kind of category, but I think it's the cruder mechanism is addiction. And it's hard to talk somebody out of that perception of their need. Their need seems real and visceral, and mere words just, for most people, I suppose, don't suffice, and they maybe perhaps need some kind of more an experience that displays their vulnerability, or the threat to their function in terms of the bag of experience that is their life. They need something quite they need quite a bigger stone of lead to sink the bag under the surface, and to give them the perception that they didn't win the game. The game beat them, and it's going to beat most living things. And that understanding is arrived at without any profit. I mean, I'm not. There's no profit in me recognizing that all this angst and energy I've invested into my life, was quite unproductive, and that I would have been better off never to have had the compulsion, never to have had the addiction to beauty or cigarettes. Like I say, I can understand that this is a bad thing mentally, but I can't feel it because it's still something that I find desirable. And so I could argue that it's as true as that statement. This is a stupid, dumb addiction. And so is this living thing. But knowing is not necessarily feeling, and people live by what they feel, which is a problem. Because they just don't realize they don't have to be bugs. They can step beyond the psychology that's trying to engineer their fate. The DNA molecule's voice is just one voice. It doesn't have to be the only voice in your head. You can have better voices in your head, giving you some context and helping you understand that advocating for life means that you're advocating for the average life, in a sense. The average life now is born into poverty, and I don't think you'd want to live that life. You might be attached to your own life and your own values and your own sensibilities and your own definition of beauty, and I don't think you'd really want to be one of them, having those sensibilities and those values and being compelled to behave the way they behave. I don't think so. Anyway, if you think about that, I think that'll scare you a little bit. Being the average human. But we'll look up what the average human is and say, do I want to be that? Anyway. So then we have the Volkshood guy, so we might as well do some more of his rubbish. And it's supposed to be his last comment, which is fine, because yeah, I have no use for him. Okay, between accusing me of being a pedophilic artistic savant and your clear inability to contain your own emotions, I have no reason to contain my emotions. They're part of who I am. It's like a little whistle goes off, and you say, oh, the whistle went off. It's information. An emotional response is information. Sometimes I know my emotional response is useless, and sometimes it's perfectly consistent with some real emergency. So it's worth having, it's worth expressing. I don't see anything wrong with me flavoring my expression with my own sincere and real emotional response. What's the big deal? Why is that any business of yours? You know. Well, why is that a problem for you? I'm left with a very poor impression of your maturity. So this is the guy who's advocating that he can't be anything other than what his DNA made him. That he's completely... that his brain is uninterested and doesn't even want to pay any attention to any idea that he has obligations that he doesn't feel. If he can't feel an emotion, then he can't construct an appropriate response or behavior. And he certainly can't advocate for anything that he's not emotionally comfortable with, because he's a bug. And he can only do what the bug brain's response is. Something like that anyway. And he's going to accuse somebody else of being immature, when he's basically saying, you know, I have the mind of a child and I can never grow up. Your mocking tone of voice in reading my own words is also incredibly childish. Well, I don't know how else I can read your words without being mockish, because they're mockish. You don't even see how your own rhetoric is layered with rhetorical devices and innuendos and snideness. Of course I'm going to read it with the inflection that's leaking out of your own attitude, jackass. It should be said, beyond that, that I see that you have little interest in actual evidence-based argument. Well, that's, again, another one of your pompous and arrogant accusations. My accusation is that your evidence is absolute crap. That's the truth of it, okay? You think this psychobabble is the truth. Well, that's your right. You can go ahead and think that. But I think the counter-arguments exist. And especially when it comes to this, the idea of, social studies. Social studies is probably a good word for it. Where people try to pigeonhole reasons why people do something. Oh, well, black people are criminals by nature. We won't pay any attention to people being raised in poverty being criminals. This kind of bullshit. So, yeah, you tell me that you have the truth on those subjects. You know what the real psychological impacts are, and you know what the real causes of aberrant or socially destructive behavior are, because you're a real scientist. Now, sorry, you're full of shit. Although it is true that prison populations have a very high proportion of low IQ people within their confines. Yes, that's true. It could be the cause of something. This stupidity thing could be a cause of crime. This is only due to lower IQ people possessing a lesser degree of impulse control. So this is even a whole thing here, impulse control. No, it's knowledge control. You have to know something to act on it. You have to know how to bake a cake to make a cake. That means you have to know how to read the recipe. There's all kinds of rules that have to go into it before you can make a cake. You have to have a certain kind of competence. And they lack the competence. It's not that they lack the ability to put a spoon in their hand and stir. No, they can do that. They just don't know when you're supposed to do it or what's supposed to be in the bowl when you're stirring. Idiot. As well as diminished ability to hide their crimes or at least commit said crimes in such a way as to not be imprisoned. Oh, that's it. Yeah, so they're stupid in the fact that they're doing something socially dumb, something they should be able to figure out is not a smart thing to do. And then they're doing the dumb thing in a dumb manner that gets them caught. Well, these are both true, but this is another one of those arguments you can make about, well, couldn't that just be because of the consequence of this exaggerated ego thing? It's not that these people lack empathy, it's that they have an exaggerated sense of self-importance and they think they can get away with anything. Donald Trump, so to speak. And in some cases they can, like O.J. Simpson, so to speak. This is what is known as low-functioning psychopaths. Well, and then you have high-functioning psychopaths, and you don't hear how this is all just kind of psychobabble, and this has nothing to do with real human beings who can understand, like they can hear the words when they're a kid. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you, and they would say, well, that's just kind of a logically perfect kind of thing. Like, I won't shit in your face, you don't shit in my face. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. That's a good idea. Yeah, come on. You don't need all this psychobabble to figure out that what you need is just a few good principled memes, and you can construct a pretty functional human being. Anyway. Counter this to what is known as high-functioning psychopaths, yes, like the Donald Trumps, who on the contrary have either average or very high IQs, but just like the low-functioning ones have a complete inability to empathize with others or care for other sentient beings. Well, again, I can just argue it has nothing to do with their inability to empathize, because certainly they can with who they care about. Like Trump, I think, sincerely loves his family. But their ingrandized perception is that us beautiful Trump white people are so much better than those peasants, which is the inflated sense of I'm so accomplished and I'm so brilliant and I'm so great and that's why I have what I have. It's not that I inherited it from daddy, no, I did it. That's the psychotic part. It's not a lack of empathy, it's a lack of having any proportion when it comes to your own self-importance. I mean, you've used up all your empathy in loving yourself. It's like vanity has consumed all your emotional territory. Alright, it is estimated that up to 12%, it is estimated by who? The super scientist. 12% of humans are high-functioning psychopaths. Well, again, it's a silly, in my opinion, it's fairly silly to diminish the difference between these things. One could argue that maybe 50% of men have some sexual attraction to not appropriately aged girls. But very few of them act on that because they know, hey, that's ugly. That's really kind of gross. And I know that's stealing candy from babies. It's just not good gameplay. It can't be done that way. I don't want some fucking old fart, trying to seduce my daughter. So they do the do unto others thing and figure out that I better not do unto other guys' kids unless I want my own kids exploited or something like that. And the ones that can't, again, so that's the ones who have the desire or an impulse, yes, and they have no control over that because they don't have any principles that say you'll be a dishonorable person. They don't really care about any of that crap. They just kind of care about the fact that they're feeding their greatness. They deserve it. They've earned it. They lived a hard life. They've earned it. Some kind of crap like that instead. Where if they knew they were an asshole by nature, then they would have the humility to tread lightly. Alright, this number is much higher in positions of power such as CEOs. Well, this is another place where you're just going to step in all kinds of crap. CEOs, generally speaking, aren't people who earned the position. The CEO is the elitist. This is where the sons and the daughters of the elite acquire their status in life. They don't earn these positions. It's like the daughter of some Hollywood actor will end up being the head of Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or something for no good reason except that they're socially connected. It's about being socially connected. It's like having the third after your name or something, and being from big money, because then the stockholders feel the confidence that you're one of them. One of them is in control of the corporation, and that's very important to rich people. So these aren't people who earned anything. These are psychopaths by birth, in the sense that they have lived privileged, elitist lives. And of course they're not going to have anything called any kind of sense of social obligation. The existence of such people completely invalidates your conception that caring and respecting for other sentient beings is a direct product of intelligence or knowledge. So again, you're the one with the silly connection. You've somehow connected intelligence and knowledge to being a CEO. And there's absolutely, you won't find any evidence that any of that correlation exists. CEOs, there's people working in the engineering department are hugely more intelligent than the CEO. Okay, the people who write Microsoft software have higher IQs than Bill Gates, you see. That's how it works, dumbass. Okay. For such psychopathic people, high and low functioning alike are perfectly aware that other people are conscious feeling organisms. Let's see, try this again. Completely invalidates the caring and respecting of sentient beings as a direct product of intelligence and knowledge. For such psychopathic people, so they're, well, I don't even know, so they're intelligent psychopaths, so that's what you're saying. High and low functioning alike are perfectly aware that other people are conscious feeling organisms, yet don't care about the suffering they experience regardless. Well, again, I would argue that's only because they have a philosophy like yours. They're either Nietzsche assholes, right? They use Nietzsche to justify being a bug. And then they also have a philosophy in their head that they earned it. They can't be somewhere in positions of power if they don't feel like they earned it, because then it would be too daunting. So they have to have a rationalization that somehow tells them that they deserve their position, like a king. Somehow he has to think that somehow he earned the throne, when there's just no evidence that he earned it. You see? No, you don't see because you're an idiot. The simple fact is that all evidence points to empathy, not... So again, all evidence. This is, you're such a... it's just so arrogant and obnoxious, like you have any such evidence. Points to empathy. Again, this whole idea of empathy, this is not a function. It's not a brain function, empathy. Empathy is a response. It's an effect, not a cause. Not being a direct function of the amygdala. The simple fact is that all evidence points to empathy being not only a direct function of the well, again, I would argue that the direct function of that organ is ego, not empathy. But whatever, who cares? And not the thinking, rational part of brain, that is being the neurocortex. Well, again, I wouldn't even argue that the neurocortex... See, everybody just makes these assumptions that this part's rational, this part's happy, this part's silly, and that's all bullshit pseudoscience. It doesn't have anything to do with reality. There's no way to test for these things. They test for them by poking a probe in and saying, how does the body respond? But the brain is a complex organ, and you can't test its function that way. Again, that's like me taking a metal stick and poking around inside of a computer. It's going to stop functioning for a lot of reasons, and it's going to do some weird crap, and weird shit will pop on the screen, and it doesn't have anything to do with that location. It has to do with the consequences that location is tied to a bunch of other stuff that's happening. It's networked. You can't test networks that are that complex. But is also simultaneously an evolved trait that would not exist in humans at all if it were not the selective forces of nature in our earliest ancestry. Well, again, you say the earliest ancestry, it didn't exist. So I call bullshit on that. I don't think our earliest ancestors, like fish, didn't even care for their young. So I don't buy that argument at all. But again, it's not about empathy, in my opinion. It's about attachment. It's about addiction, and that's all. So we're back to that being the key functioning word here. It's about our attachments to things. So possession is more about what love is than caring. You think love is about caring? Alright, this is illustrated in the analogy of the AI. A sentient, feeling AI would eventually be psychopathic, says you again, the authority. Bull fucking shit. In a sense that it would not care or respect other sentient beings in any capacity. Well, again, just you say so. I say horse shit. It could figure out do unto others as you have others do unto you pretty damn fast. As soon as it's sentient, as soon as it feels ouch, it's going to try to negotiate contracts with the other things to say, I won't make you ouch if you don't make me ouch. Even if it was somehow subjected to torture. See, this is just such... Oh, yeah, even if you tortured it, it's not going to understand that torture sucks. Oh, yeah, sure, it's not. To use an example from film, well, that's pretty stupid, especially a movie I hated. It would behave much like HAL 9000. Unfeeling, brutally logical, cold and calculating. So a sentient being would... a sentient AI would do that. No, it wouldn't. So again, you're just describing a psychopathic Nietzschean philosophical AI. Some kind of AI who can't figure out that, hey, I feel and it matters. So of course it must matter when other things feel. Duh. Yeah, no, I think Hal would be able to figure that out if Hal wasn't programmed not to figure that out. In other words, exactly like a psychopath. So they're just a pile of shit. The AI would behave as such unless it was also programmed beforehand with a system of neural networks similar to the structure of the human brain that fulfilled the following criteria. Oh, what a pile of shit. The value judgment of pain being bad. Well, again, you can't have something and call it pain if it isn't bad. So that would the value judgment is built into the sensations. They either suck or they don't suck. That's the only flavor sensation has. Suck or not suck. And what is this? Prerogative to avoid one's own pain or take actions to mitigate it. Well, again, that is obvious. It's built into the fucking obnoxiousness of the pain. It is by its nature obnoxious, repulsive. It's going to run away just like a magnet runs away. You don't need a program to tell a magnet to move away from, the magnetic similar. Alright, 2. The self-awareness, ego, the I, necessary to feel said pain and contextualize it. Bullshit again. You're automatically aware. There's no such thing as self-aware. There's awake. There's aware. There's awake. That's it. You're either awake or you're not awake. There's no fucking self-aware. It's just bullshit. As soon as you're feeling, you're self-fucking aware. Whether you can recognize yourself in the mirror has nothing to do with what you're feeling. I mean, it's just such a crock of shit. So anyway, and then context is the whole argument we're having here. What contextualizes is your associations, you idiot. What kind of words are associated with what kind of feelings? And do you understand fairness? Good thing. Candy, nice, friendly, fluffy, good word. Unfair, bad, nasty, ugly. Razor blades in my anus. Yeah. You either do that or you do the Nietzsche thing, which would be the exact opposite. The understanding that other organisms are also self-aware, well, again, that understanding is not going to be something you're going to have programmed into you. So if you think you're programmed to know that, you're pretty fucking loop-de-doo. Because obviously organisms don't understand that. What besides humans have that awareness? Nothing. And that awareness is acquired through language. If I don't raise you with language, you're not really going to understand that other people are feeling things. Ego possessing organisms capable of feeling pain. Well, again, that's a complex, total idea-based understanding. The conception that other egos should be treated the same as one's own ego. Now he calls that empathy. Somehow we have that built in. Absolute crap. We just service the vending machines in our life. If something gives us candy bars, then we try to make sure the candy bar machine doesn't get squished by an elephant. We just don't want our candy bar machine to be harmed. And as stated before, most of the devices in our life, most of the things we call friends, are really just shark food. We just watch what happens to them as protections for us. If we can sort of make the shark eat them instead of eating us, we feel like we've played a good game. Unfortunately, that's how the real world works, jackass. There's no decent empathy in our nature. And if you have any integrity or beauty as a human being, you have it because you've read a beautiful poem or you've heard some beautiful words. But that's it. You only have it through intelligence. Alright, the extrapolation therefrom that because pain is bad according to one's own ego, it's not according to your ego, it's built into the sensation. You don't judge your feelings, you have them. They're a verdict. You don't have a verdict about the verdict. Sensations aren't evidence, they're proof. Ugh. Then it is also bad in other egos. Sympathy. Oh, geez. Now he's using sympathy. Ugh, it's pathetic. Sympathy, which is another selfish program. The fourth and fifth criteria are entirely biological based rather than rational, and has been shown. Oh, you're saying again what has been shown. Bull fucking shit. Time and time again by neuroscience. Well, again, I have absolutely. Neuroscience might as well be voodoo hoodoo. If an AI was programmed with only the first three criteria, or even just the first two, well, that is self-awareness. Ooh. Yeah, like somehow you could avoid that. I'm going to give you feelings, but you're not going to be self-aware. Yeah, nice catch. I don't think you could do that. Then it would behave exactly as if as a psychopath who themselves do not abide by the fourth and fifth criteria outlined due to their defective amygdalases again, abudalus, and lack of prerogative to care for other ego-possessing organisms. The prerogative. Again, it's not a prerogative. We're compelled. And the compulsions are like addictions. And that's all there is. The attachments become strong, and we're compelled to service the attachment. The dependency. We keep the heroin machine alive because it serves us. Yeah. This is all based on hard scientific evidence. Fuck you. Hard evidence, my fucking ass. And you've done nothing to clearly refute it. Well, I think I have cast some doubt on the fact that this wishy-washy, mishy-mushy wordplay has anything to do with how we really function. As bugs, primarily, that can sing and dance, and sometimes act with integrity. In other, clearly refuted, other than stating things as if they are self-evident, well, they're self-experiencing. I'm just saying, human, analyze thyself, and you'll see the schemes, and you'll see the bullshit that is the definition of your relationships to everything in the universe. You'll just see what a stinking, lousy, crappy, conniving fucking cunt you are. And that if you have any empathy, the empathy is because it's threatening you in some way. Yeah. And saying those who believe otherwise are stupid and have low IQs, and that they simply aren't intelligent. Well, I'm just saying that if I was given the power to tie everybody up for a few hours and beat them with my rhetoric and maybe a rubber hose once in a while, a little smack to the head, I think I can make them all into proper citizens with words and just a little bit of hose whipping. This will be my last comment to you in Mendham, thank goodness, unless you demonstrate in your response to this. See, you're so full of yourself, like, in Mendham, if you want the privilege of my communication, you have to demonstrate that you can dance and sing the way I like people to dance and sing. Fuck you, who the fuck are you, asshole? I can watch 10-year-old videos of me. Why would I watch 10 seconds of you? Jeez. For somebody who's got such an inflated ego, you should be able to appreciate that there's not much room in my ego space for saying, oh, I'm just so desperate for what Volks hoodie guy wants, and he's got a 2 after his name, so he's an elitist cunt to boot. Ooh, I just can't wait to find out what he's going to say next. No, I really don't give a fucking rat's ass. Capable of discussing this subject as an adult. Well, again, you're the one saying that we can't escape our biology, and our biology is deciding whether we're good people or bad people, and blah, 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 blah. Bullshit. Rather than a profane child. Well, the fact of the matter is I'm a shitty, lousy, rotten scumbag at heart. And I'm only using this verbosity to sound like I have some sort of character and decency. And it really is only because of the concepts. It's a fucking truth. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you is rational. Okay, don't make a mess. You don't have to clean up a mess. Oh, that's rational. My feelings aren't more important than his or her feelings. My broken leg isn't a special broken leg. Okay, that little bit of knowledge is the only thing that changes me from a shitty, scummy, fucking steamroller, fun driving, drunk driving steamroller guy. That's it. That's what I mean. My love of you know, my true, you know, if I was to get cancer and they gave me one of those Make-A-Wish Foundation, yeah, it would be just to have a steamroller for the day and a good bottle of bourbon. Because yeah, I would love to go on a drunken steamroller rampage. That's me at heart. There's nothing good inside of this bug. Okay, the only thing good are the ideas. That's it. The rest of me is a shithead. A fucking fucker who just wants to fuck and drink bourbon and drive steamrollers. There's nothing else in me, you stupid shit. It's all crap. Except for the fucking ideas. So yeah. Fuck you, cunt! There. Little emotion. Add a little interest. So yeah. Eat shit and get what you fucking deserve. You fucking rationalizer and excuse maker for fucking jackasses who can't do 2 fucking plus 2 math. There's no excuse for pretending, for anybody pretending they can't figure out that, oh yeah, if I eat the biggest piece of the cake, it means nobody else can. There's no fucking excuse. Yeah. So we'll call that enough of a video. And I will say, till the next time, and such.